Dan here, thepaintballpost.com, and today we're going to be talking about paintball loaders and what is your best bang for the buck at every price point. So, regardless of what your budget is, oh man, are these loaders ever so much better than they used to be, right? I remember buying my first Evolution 2, and then the battery door breaking, lid breaking. I still have the majority of it somewhere, but they were horrible. Covered in tape to keep going. Those days are far behind us. So no matter what budget you have, there is a good loader to be had. So let's take a look at my picks. So if you are shopping under $50, oh man. Now, I will reiterate, as I did in our 500 and under paintball guns, I'm using A&S gear for pricing simply because I live in Canada and needed a American paintball store. Shop where you'd like to shop. Ideally, your local paintball store, but I've had good luck with A&S. I have no affiliation with them. But this deal on A&S right now, $34.95, $35. It's hard. Oh man, is it ever hard to beat this loader here. These loaders, they're bulletproof. They are built like tanks and they load pretty quick. You can get a pretty consistent 9 to 10 BPS out of these from what I've seen. They tend to spike a little bit higher than that, but inside it's more of your classic Revy style impeller. And much like the Revies of old, they're just nearly invincible. If you're new to the game, if you're running a mechanical marker, like you picked yourself up, a used Tipman 98, or you picked up, an inexpensive Azotin off of our $500 and under recommendations in the previous video, this is a great loader to start with. It's not going to be as fast as any of the other ones that are on this list, but it is going to be so much better than a gravity-fed loader, and at $35, there is nothing $50 and under that I will recommend more than this. These were designed to be used by renters, so the lids on them are bulletproof. The shells, we're talking throw it down a flight of stairs and it's still going to work in the end. That's the kind of durability we're looking at here. And I again, as somebody who started on an Evolution 2, you don't know what you got these days, guys. The only other loader in this price range that I could ever justifiably recommend, let me just bring it up here. Now, again, I am in Canada, so this is going to be in Canadian dollars here, but these are normally $49.99 or something like that in the US, is the Vulcan VMAX. Internally, these look suspiciously like an Evolution 2. But there's actually nothing wrong with that. The Evolution 2 loaded really well. It was just put in a horrendous shell. And everything I've heard about this shell is it is actually pretty durable. So if you're after something a bit faster and you're willing to spend a little more money, the VMAX, probably your best sub $50 loader for speed. If you're on this kind of budget, you're probably not shooting through pod after pod anyway. I can't move away from this is one of the best deals in paintball right now. So speaking of good deals though, we've got the Empire Prophecy Z2. I personally own one of these and I love it. At $90, they are wonderful for the price. They are essentially a Halo 2 in a better shell. The shells on these aren't perfect, right? That Speedster we looked at a second ago, that is going to be more durable than a Z2. But I've had mine for 5 or 6 years. My lid started cracking right away, so I put a speed feed on it. and just haven't really looked back. And the lid is still there. It's still fine. If it was raining, I could throw it on if I need to. But you do lose out on some of the amenities you get on higher end loaders, like the quick change for the lids. The load speed on these, the feed rate is very good. These were put out back when the speed wars were still kind of a thing. So they're not as fast as like a cheetah boarded Halo B, but they are real quick. And yeah, at sub $100, they're probably one of the best out there. If you want something that I've heard good things about the new Halo shells that were recently announced. They were announced after I made the article, but before I made this video. That may change my mind in this price point depending on where this new Halo Pro ends up. But for now, yeah, I'm actually a big fan of the Z2. I like how they look as well. They come apart pretty easy. The shells just aren't as durable as something like that Pro Toys Speedster, or as durable as some of the more expensive options that we'll look at in a second. But if you're looking to spend under $100, that would be my pick if you want a lot of speed. Now, don't write off, though, picking up a used rotor or LTR. Original or LTR, I should say, because those are one of our top picks here for the $100 to $150 range. We've got kind of a three-way tie-ish. I have these numbered in order of what I think, like third place, second place, first place, but you can't really go wrong with any of these. Up first, we've got the Dye LTR. This is essentially the original rotor, just missing the side windows that nobody ever used anyway, and those would be like the least durable part of the whole thing. These are pretty darn good. $110. They do come with the ramp inside. I think they were one of the first loaders I'm aware of, at least, that had that little ramp, like spring ramp inside to help feed in. These things are super, super, super fast, which can be a bit of overkill. They have a tendency to jam with especially really small or low quality paint. Mine have been jamming a bit recently, so I've started moving more to some of the other options that are on this list. But I have two of these. I've had them for over a decade. They've served me real well, and they're still going. These things are built like tanks. Just like that Speedster, you can throw this thing down a flight of stairs and it is going to keep running. I've seen these things skip across the pavement in the parking lot and just brush them off. They are fine. I have not actually... I've heard of one. I've never seen one physically break. I've heard of one breaking, and the store that I was going to at the time told me, yeah, we had one come in broken, and Dye asked us to send it back because they wanted to figure out how it actually managed to break. Physically speaking, these are one of the most durable loaders ever made, hands down. And they changed the landscape of loaders. I've got an article coming out specifically about how you don't understand how bad everything was until the rotor came out. It was such a leap forward in terms of just build quality, durability. It was worth every penny at the time, and it still is. These things at $110 hold up really, really well. As mentioned, they are really, really fast, which ironically these days means they're more what I would recommend if you are a mechanically inclined marker owner. So autocockers, EMEX, that kind of thing, where you're dealing with a gun that doesn't have eyes. The speed these put out is a bit less necessary these days, unless you don't have eyes on your equipment, right? If your gun doesn't have eyes, if your marker doesn't have eyes, one of these can be a very, very good decision. But yeah, they are loading faster than you probably need. There's quite a few pro teams that are out there winning with these things still, and as I will be mentioning later, they have the option of using the R2, and they're using the LTRs very frequently. Don't write these things off just because they're getting a little long in the tooth, because again, they were so far ahead of their time that they have this type of staying power. Very, very good option. Highly recommended. Looking at something a little newer, we have the JT Triad. These are a bit of a mixed bag in terms of reputation. A little bit warranted, a little bit unwarranted. They recalled them before they went out to the general public, but we all got to watch teams, sponsored by JT/Empire, pulling out their good old Halo 2s, throwing those on the top. Even the announcers were poking fun at that a little bit. I don't know if they were supposed to. It got a little awkward up in the booth there. Now, these are one of your best bang for the buck. And it has been actually a bit of a game changer we'll get to in a second. They have internal spring ramps. They have a very nice 220 ball capacity. They come with the speed feed. The rain lid clicks over top of it. It's a really nice design. Everything I've heard is just, if you like the look and the length of these, essentially they are a Z2 that has been calmed down in terms of speed in a modern shell. So they're really durable. They load very consistently. From what I've heard, they are a very good option. I have not tested one out personally, but everybody I know who's picked one up has really enjoyed it. So it sounds to me like they fixed out all the kinks, and everything I've heard in that $100 to $150 range, these should be on your short list, but possibly not your end pick. My recommendation is going to be one of the newest entries on here again, the IR2 SE. I own one of the original IR2s, and I've recently picked up a Spire 5 or 4 or whatever the heck number they're on now. But the IR is a really, really good value. The problem is the original IR2 release didn't come with the spring ramp, didn't have the speed feed, but that was okay. Neither did the rotor it was competing against. But then you had to buy those separately, and these spring ramps were like an extra $10, and then the speed feeds, it just started to add up to the point where it was going to get really hard to justify it against the Triad. Once you added in the speed feed and the spring ramps, the IR2 started losing in value proposition to the Triad. Now that they are including the spring ramps and are including a fairly nice speed feed, I prefer the one that they have on the Spires, but these rubber ones are just fine. This is almost everything you need. So if you're out there and you're looking at a Spire IR2, definitely consider taking the jump up to the SE. The original IR2s were roughly the same price, didn't come with the speed feed, didn't have the spring ramps. These are a very, very good value. This is why we need things like the JT Triad. There wasn't a whole lot of competition in that $100 range for a little while there, and now we've got something that is forcing Virtue to kind of answer. And it's good. Great for the consumer. And good on Virtue for answering. This technically being their entry-level loader does it a disservice to call it that. But, $130, that's my pick out of any of the loaders in that range. Then we get to the $150 plus, and I have a very hard time recommending anything. Here's the long and the short of it. If you're the kind of person who's willing to spend an extra $100 to get a fancy anno on your gun, you're probably the kind of person who's going to spend an extra $100 to get a perfectly matched higher end loader. In my view, there is no advantage to getting a $250 loader compared to a $150 loader in the modern scene. These loaders in that price range, that $100 to $150, are the sweet spot. They're durable, they load very well, and they look good. What more can we ask for? When you move up to this $150 plus range, it becomes about looks and about some extra quality of life features. Potentially performance, because the Spire 5 has eyes and it has the accelerometer. Does that really matter? Not to me. So that's why I have both. The only reason I own a Spire 5 is I found a used one in perfect condition for roughly the price of an IR2. That was it. That's the only reason I have a Spire 5. And color-wise, it happened to perfectly match my gun. So that's why I have one. I have a hard time recommending them to anybody. If you want to spend the money, do it, right? Go and get yourself the one that perfectly matches your gun and just really has all those bells and whistles and features that you really like, right? Get yourself a Bunker King control, R2 with the expandable shell. That is pretty neat. So I'm going to stop ranting on this. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with spending more money. They're all great. Once you pass that threshold of about $150, there's really no wrong answers. Follow your heart. Go with the loader that makes sense to you. But that is my personal picks, like I said, for everything from $35 to $150. No harm in, like, if you're on a budget, get yourself a Speedster. If you have a little bit more, there's quite a bit of options. The Halo 2, the Sonic. I personally like the Z2. No wrong answers in this price bracket either. But if you can get into this $100 to $150 range, you're getting into some loaders that are the equivalent of the top tier. If you want to move up into that top tier, you can, but now we're talking more luxury than performance gain. And that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with getting exactly what you want. So speaking of exactly what you want, what I want is for you to like, subscribe, head over to thepaintballpost.com to read the written article as well as quite a few of the other articles we've got going on the site. New articles coming up hopefully every week, sometimes twice a week. And we'll see you in the next video.